Hello, welcome to The Future Isn't Black and White. My name is Nika Simovich-Fisher, and I am the AAS Program Director here at Parsons, and I'm also an AIGA New York member. Thank you so much for joining us for another special AIGA New York Design Spotlight event. These events feature designers sharing top of mind or breakout work. We're in for an incredible treat tonight, and we're truly grateful to be here with our AIGA New York community as well as a few of our board members. After the event, you're invited to join us for a reception, but first, a couple of announcements. So before we start, a big thank you to Parsons for donating this beautiful space to bring us together, and also a special thank you to Matthew Chavez of Art Plus People for providing support for tonight's live stream. I also want to thank all of you for being here. By attending this talk and purchasing a ticket, your presence is a present. You are supporting our AIGA New York design community through the sharing of ideas and inspiration and helping to fund future events and initiatives. AIGA New York is a nonprofit organization with a volunteer board. So tonight, with all of you joining us, you're already making an impact on strengthening our ability to do more and continuing to be a design resource, and we're very grateful. We have some other awesome events coming up. Please be sure to visit our website, aiganewyork.org, for more information. And both of these are here at Parsons as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce tonight's speakers. We have Ben Watkinson, the Global Brand Director of GF Smith. Ben is the Global Brand Director of GF Smith. Ben believes that central to GF Smith's standing is its genuine desire to help people achieve their creative ambitions regardless of the scale of their project or starting point. He feels that the company's continued focus on inspiring the creative world and sharing knowledge has fueled its burgeoning reputation as one of the leading forces in creative paper globally. We also have Matt Delbridge, who's the creative director of Made Thought. Matt approaches problems with a holistic view and an eye for where Made Thought can stand out. Matt pulls experience working with cultural and technology brands to create creative work that is unexpected and desirable. Some key clients include Google, the New York Times, Hermes, Uber, Nike, Erman Miller, and the Miami Design District. Please welcome Ben Watkinson and Matt Delbridge.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Great to be in the US. Great to be in New York. So I also want to say thank you to AIGA and Parsons as well for inviting us along tonight, and hopefully you'll find what we're going to talk about really interesting. So yeah, as has just been announced, I'm Ben Watkinson, the Global Brand Director of GF Smith. We've been the specialist paper company for the creative industry since 1885. And the company behind the iconic Colour Plan paper range. Essentially, I think we've been thinking about colour and talking about colour for the best part of 138 years, so a very long time. I'm accompanied this evening by Matt Delbridge, the New York City Creative Director of Made Thought. Made Thought have been our creative partner primarily in London and now in New York as well for the last 12 years, so we've got a long-standing relationship with Made Thought, and we're really proud to be a partner with them. We're here tonight to explore one distinct question. Before we travel back in time, I think it's important just for me to acknowledge that the colour history that we're going to look at today and tonight is primarily filtered through a predominantly white Western experience, and that the use and experience and meaning of colour can differ hugely across cultures, races, genders, ages, and experience. And we can't currently pretend to offer an exhaustive, fully inclusive overview of what colour means to the whole world. But I am hoping that the Colour of the Future campaign that we're going to launch here tonight will go some way to helping us build one. So, is the world getting less colourful? This is a question that seems to be asked more and more, and one that might have and probably has likely crossed your mind at some point. Is the world becoming less colourful? Perhaps you think the question is super simple. It calls for a simple yes or no answer. But in reality, it's not that easy to predict. And the truth is, We don't know, but we're here to find out. So if we start by taking a trip back to the 1920s, when you think of that era, do you envisage scenes in black and white? It's not surprising that you do. Despite being a period of vibrant fashion and roaring 20s decadence, many aspects of daily life were trapped in black and white and monochrome. Serious news, candid shots, and everyday life were the realm of black and white. Printing in colour during the 1920s was significantly more expensive, and at its most extreme was 100% more costly than printing in black and white. So whether that's black and white photography or daily newspapers, black and white was the normal way to experience and interpret the world. The monochrome lens through which people digested news and the world around them was actually very pervasive. Even in the realm of entertainment, black and white films dominated the cinemas, remaining the standard in the 30s. And it wasn't just in media where colour was scarce, even in consumer goods, colour was limited. Paint technology was complex, expensive, and time-consuming to apply, which made black the default choice. And as Henry Ford famously stated, his cars could be painted any colour the customer wants, as long as that colour is black. But while Ford's Model T had made motoring accessible, as mass consumption grew, other brands began to recognise the importance in offering a more expansive range.
So General Motors had to struggle to compete with Ford, so they were able to stand out by introducing colors into their range, such as the colors that we see here. This advancement led to a whole advancement for the industry around paint technology, and it looked to cater to an increasing middle class. So just color becoming more of a commercial element that people are going to be looking towards, and that extended into advertising as well. And early advertising was able to harness color in such a way that it became incrementally more powerful in the minds of consumers. So we saw that ads were harnessing color and allowing it to help them differentiate their brand from other brands, and that led to a complete explosion of color that we now are very used to today, and it ultimately awakened a whole new way of advertising. And you can see here the Times Square in the 1950s. And brands needed to make an impression, they needed to stand out, but more than that, they needed to communicate something to consumers. And through color science, they were able to actually engineer feelings through their colors. So while red can be associated with strength, passion, even aggression, it could also stimulate color by tapping into those same emotions. So it was red was able to attract attention and actually change the way that we perceived these products and stimulate our digestive system, even go as far as that. It also speeds up our metabolism, makes us more hungry as a result, and increases heart rate as well. So next time you find yourself in a red and yellow eatery, maybe connect to why. It also has the effect of moving customers through a space more quickly. So as customers are digesting quicker, they're moving through and adding more speed to the process. Interestingly, color being used as codes for things like gender hasn't always been static. So originally, pink was considered the color for boys, which was modeled after the red soldier's uniform, and blue was considered a color for girls, which was modeled after a nurse's uniform. And it wasn't until the 40s and 50s that interpretation was then flipped, and it became more standardized in Western cultures. Additionally, once color TV, or once black and white TV started to infiltrate homes, it said that 75% of households in the 50s had in the mid-50s had black and white TVs. That had a huge impact on the way that we see the world and contributed to the way that elements actually showed up on film. So famously, Adidas created the black and white soccer ball so that it could be more visible on screen as opposed to the brown soccer ball that was there before. So just the way that technology interprets color has impacts on the icons that are pervasive in our world. Additionally, it's said that people in their 70s, people who had black and white TVs predominantly, are said to actually dream in black and white. And even today, people in their 70s are said to dream in black and white. As Technicolor started to become more of a norm, we started to see the screen become more colorful. And obviously it was a very expensive, difficult process that was created by mixing three different colors. So it used cyan, yellow, and magenta overlaid with a black image to kind of ground that, which then ended up creating Technicolor, but it wasn't widely used even at the time. As color TV started to become more and more common, in the mid-60s, we saw brands starting to use color through television. A lot of actual television stations started to use color and use their translate their previously black and white logos into colorful logos as well. We see the first color broadcast, which was the Tournament of Roses on NBC as well. Color has the ability to communicate and evoke and elicit both behavioral and learned responses, playing a profound role in our choices and perceptions. So it's said that 85% of people cite color as a primary reason for buying a product, and 90% of snap judgment purchases are based on color alone. But it seems something changed around the turn of the century. We stopped looking at color in the same way that we once did, and we started to see the world moving towards a more monochromatic and beige color palette. So this is looking at the percent of pixels across all photos over the course of time. So we're moving dramatically towards a more muted world, it's also said that that data is then creating a cycle of more and more muted products in the market. So if people are being served more black products, for instance, then companies are going to make more black products, and we're going to kind of continue that cycle. And we can see that same cycle not just in consumer products, but also in our homes. We're seeing that paint colors are moving towards a more homogeneous gray tone as people think about resale value. So this cycle is sort of self-perpetuating. We're also seeing our wardrobes becoming more gray and more beige as a result. This was very surprising. So we're also seeing birds losing their vibrant colors. In Europe, this is what is this? The blue teat they're less intense than they were in previous generations, and we're thinking that's due to climate change, actually. So across the board, we're seeing colors start to disappear from nature, from our products, from our daily lives. So that asks the question: are we headed for a monochromatic future? Are we headed for a world of colorlessness? And is this ultimately unstoppable? But I'll hand it back to Ben.
So, thanks, Matt. In a world where colour can shape our perceptions and experiences, our memories and our dreams, will we resign ourselves to its demise? I guess we must all recognise the importance of preserving and celebrating the vibrancy that colour brings to our lives. And at GF Smith, we have been, as I said at the start, closely involved with the evolving story of colour for over a century. if the world is indeed becoming less colourful and vibrant, and that's a hypothesis that we want to test and challenge, what role can we all play in this evolving landscape? And just to frame our involvement in colour at GF Smith, colour has been an integral part of our history since our inception in 1885. And while our core product may be beautiful and tactile and incredible, as you would say from someone who works for a paper company, its inherent tactility is something that's incredible and beautiful to behold. If you've ever held a beautiful sheet of Japanese paper, or in fact a beautiful sheet of colour plan, you'll know that. But it's actually the infusion of colour that breathes life, emotion and resonance into what that offers. In 1936, we began to assemble our very first colour ranges, colours that perhaps reflect the mood of that age in brown, grey and white, and actually they're colours of a world that was still in rationing from the First World War, where everything was very sparse. If you then move to the 50s, things start to change. It's an era of optimism, of growth and prosperity. In post-war Britain, we actually introduced brighter shades like scarlet, emerald and new blue that you see on the screen here. These optimistic colours mirrored the spirit and energy of their time, of new printing technologies and the dawning of the age of colour TV. Interestingly, these three colours are red, green and blue, the same as those used in the picture tube technique with which televisions create a mixed colour. But these colours also reflect other inspirations, including the bold and vibrant world of pop art championed by young and upcoming artists such as Roy Lichtenstein and Andy Warhol, an era-defining art movement that reflected people's everyday lives and the things they saw around them. And these artists all reflect the print techniques of the time, from comic strips to screen printing. If you then move to the 1960s, that marked a turning point in British art and design education. Foundation courses emerged as a radical new artistic training based more on an intuitive approach than a formalised system of knowledge-based teaching. Graphic design courses were introduced into art colleges in the UK, and as a company we responded to that changing landscape. And we transitioned into the 60s with an evolved marketing strategy to engage with the new generation of creative minds. We formed strong relationships with institutions including St Martin's School of Art and Design in London, which still hold really strong to this day. We dedicated ourselves to educating the emerging generation of creatives on the intricate art of utilising colour and printing on paper. And so the newly emerging graphic design industry became our principal customer target and remains so today. That shift also led to graduates establishing dynamic graphic design businesses, empowering them to take greater control over print and paper specifications. And as the world embraced brighter and bolder colours, we formalised our coloured paper collection, leading to the creation of something called Plan 8. That range at the time actually consisted of just 8 what were considered fashionable and innovative colours, and was developed in collaboration with an up-and-coming graphic designer called Bill Mackay, who brought valuable insights from the graphic, fashion and print sectors, and we continue to work with him for the next 25 years. The success of that Plan 8 range prompted us to streamline the entire product portfolio, and working closely with Bill Mackay and conducting extensive customer consultations, we completed the rationalisation of our product portfolio in 1971, culminating in the launch of a systematic colour programme in 72. That significant development laid the foundation for the brand name Colour Plan, which some of you, hopefully most of you, will be familiar. From its inception, Colour Plan revolutionised the world of printed communications in Britain. Graphic designers and innovative printers utilised the range to create designs and advertising campaigns that were previously unachievable. Colour Plan's expansive selection of colours in various weights and sizes and finishes set new standards in the industry. Unlike the world, our colour preferences continue to change, moving away from the bold colours that we'd seen with the vibrant psychedelia of the 60s and early 70s. And the world's attention shifted towards environmental concerns. New images of Earth, which actually come further down in this presentation, from space were fundamentally changing how we saw ourselves on our blue marble planet. This led to a shift in colour palettes, with a growing preference for softer, Earth-inspired hues, reflecting a global awakening to the fragility of our planet, people sought solace in the natural world. The 80s witnessed a global economic boom marked by excess and extravagant style statements. This era's design was characterised by strong colour statements. Think of cars in the 80s and you probably think Ferrari. The famous Rosso cross colour, meaning racing red, becomes every child's pin-up poster and the sign of the success of Wall Street traders. Orange also became a standout colour of the 1980s, synonymous with innovation, progression in the new. Strong growth in the Japanese economy also put major innovation and technology companies like Sony and Toyota on the global platform. The trend for Japanese fashion blossomed with the work of fashion designers like Issey Miyake and Yohji Yamamoto. Their stark fashion colour palettes strengthened the use of black and grey in design and more serious, strong colour palettes overall. In turn, Japanese design influenced Western graphic, furniture and architectural designers. In the 1990s, the West began to pull away from the urban energy of the 1980s and sought to slow down, looking to the natural world for inspiration. This led to a design style characterised by soothing and more tranquil colour palettes. Over the course of the decade, the number of spas and wellness services doubled around the world, typified by their soft, ethereal, natural colour palette, perhaps balancing the hedonistic lifestyle of the period. And as we entered the 21st century's globalised digital era, colour trends became more fragmented and more transient. With the rise of blogs and platforms like Pinterest, everyone became a curator suddenly of their own tastes. And today, global culture is laid out for everyone to see, allowing each of us to cherry-pick the things we like from anywhere and everywhere, leading to flare-ups of shorter-term trends, ever-changing, seemingly impossible to pin down. For 87 years, our iconic colour plan range has reflected and captured the colours of our times in the products it creates. The game-changing paper range that we like to think it is became the benchmark collection for the creative industries of Britain and now beyond, using colour to make the world feel, experience and see paper and colour like never before. And our passion for colour led us all around the world, from Australia to India, Atlanta, and to a small city I come from and I'm very proud to represent, called Hull in the north of England. Our use of colour extended to regions across the globe, reaching communities and celebrating the transformative power of colour and paper. And this installation, designed by Maidthorpe and installed in 2017 in Hull, has all of the colours of Colourplan across the years from left to right, and there you have it. From 1936 to today, a snapshot of our colourful century. With an installation like this, you can start to see our journey through colour and how that has been shaped by cultural shifts and creative innovations over time. The reds and oranges of the 1950s, the purples and magentas of the 1970s, the more muted tones from the turn of the century. But when it came to extending our range of colours in 2017 and deciding upon our 51st colour, we decided to do things a little bit differently. So, through the power of digital, we put a simple question out to the world. It's a question we are often asked as children, but do we still know the answer? When we are children, everyone has an answer to the question, what's your favourite colour? And it's a question I still ask my children today, and it's a question that the answer changes with every week. But something does change as we reach adulthood. We lose that statement of identity, and for many of us, we never actually think about that question again. And the question's been asked before. We have blue lights on either side of the room tonight. The assumption has often been that blue is the world's favourite colour, associated with positive things like clear skies, holidays and stability, which is why it's a colour frequently adopted in branding by banks and trusted organisations. It's also a colour that is rare and not often found in nature. But if blue is indeed the favourite, what specific shade of blue holds that coveted title? To unravel that mystery, G.F. Smith and Maidthorpe embarked on a 4-month global quest to discover the world's favourite colour back in 2017. We engaged our community and encouraged participation from creatives all over the world. We worked with data scientists and developed an online digital colour selector that allowed participants to submit their favourite colour and share their reasons for their selection. We were overwhelmed with the response, receiving tens of thousands of submissions from more than 100 countries. Actually, it became an ambitious project which quickly became the world's largest colour study, and that was entirely by accident. What the data enabled us to do, and the data we collected enabled us to do, was to conduct extensive analysis, providing insights into favoured colours across different markets, different genders, and different age groups. To amplify the initiative, we created editorial content by asking 8 creative ambassadors to share their favourite colour with us. Prominent and respected figures from the creative worlds of art, fashion, design and architecture each shared their own favourite colours and insights. Through a series of articles and films, each of them revealed how colour informs their life and practice, and what shapes their own preferences, and the impact it has on how they view the world around them.
My favorite color is the red, because one part is very Spanish, because I'm Spanish, but on the other side I'm living in UK and it's a very British color.
Can I cheat and have a couple of colours in very particular references?
Behold, slime green. This is my favourite colour beyond all others.
My favourite colour is hot pink.
My favourite colour is green.
I've chosen teal, and I particularly like this colour because it's effectively hyper-real, so it appears very infrequently in nature.
I think it's a beautiful pink actually. It's probably kind of quite Rajasthani, kind of quite Indian, and I think it's the kind of that sort of touch of neon, that colour before it actually becomes too vulgar. It's just that right touch of brightness in there.
It's a green that I'm currently partaking in on my face most days at the moment.
I can remember very specifically falling in love with slime green. We first became known as jelly makers, or as we called it, jelly mongers. And so we've had a lot of slime in our lives, ranging from exploding jellies to vast jellies the size of 2 Olympic swimming pools. And in all of those cases, slime green has played a key role.
Furniture, floors, ceramics. I use green a lot. I love spending time in nature and in the countryside, and so I respond to that, the greens of that.
Why the red?
It does occur in nature, but only in very, very special instances, like hummingbirds and parrots, and even the peacock.
Is there a teal bird?
Red is the blood, is the heart, is the love. So there is something in line with this very specific, strong color, and it's more or less part of your life.
All of the greens that I use are very synthetic, and there's a nice sort of contradiction, I think, about using the colour green in a synthetic way.
I do like this colour so much. I actually have 3 of these jumpers, and recently I got some carpets made for my house that are in exactly this colour too.
You can buy bubble wrap. I was very excited that I could find bubble wrap in exactly this tone of green, so we can call it bubble wrap green. It's my favourite colour at the moment, and I'm going to stick with that ability to fluctuate.
Although it was really interesting to find out what people's favourite colours actually were, it was actually the data that we captured that led to the more interesting things that we found out. And we got some really interesting responses. So here, the weather at the time of entries varied from minus 28 degrees C in Alaska to 43 degrees C in New Delhi in India. Over twice as many women voted for their favourite colour as men did. And saturated colours are by far more popular. Each colour submission was captured with additional information, including country and city location, gender, age, the weather at the time, as you've just seen, and a short explanatory narrative explaining why they had chosen their colour. Actually, our research generated a wealth of insights that allowed us to delve into the role of colour in contemporary society. Through the data, we examined the words, emotions, and associations linked to specific colours, revealing how colours symbolise a multitude of concepts. Our survey found the world's colour for change, a colour associated with energy, optimism and action, but also it symbolises ambition and creativity. And the colour of freedom. Just think of so many flags in the world that use this colour, including the United Nations. The colour of elegance and the colour of quality. We also uncovered the world's emotions tied to blue. The size of each circle here represents the amount of entries we receive, so calm is clearly a really important word when it comes to describing people's feelings around blue. The world's emotions linked to red. And similarly, green held unique significance in a global palette, how healthy in nature of very similar shades, which is not surprising as we look to our future. Colour groupings too reveal deeper meanings, such as the connection between colour and emotions. The colour of happy here is especially fascinating. This became a huge response in the survey, clearly something very important to people when it comes to colour. Colours in shades of blue and green and orange were associated with creativity. Perhaps good to paint your studio or bedroom wall this shade if you want to be inspired. Whereas dark purples and blues represented the timelessness of luxury. And what's really interesting as we looked at this is the individual and small nuances between colours. If you look at this, colours from nature, the colours of sunrise and sunset, two things which are intrinsically linked, but with a ever such slightly different subtle colour palette. And the same with dusk and twilight, of ocean and lake, similar but ever so different. Tree and forest. And then we made further groupings, all the colours related to sustainability, for example. The colours of beauty and the colours of fashion. The relevance of these analyses can be put into context and applications for different social, cultural and creative disciplines where colour can play a defining role in a brand's psychological appeal and differentiation, defining the words that are commonly associated with characteristics inherent within the subjects or brand's persona allows a more defined, distinct and relevant colour palette to be developed, one based on common associations that will resonate with global audiences with a great degree of accuracy. The most commonly chosen favourite colours were shades of green or blue. Colours nearer white or black on the spectrum were least frequently chosen. So using advanced algorithms, we distilled the values and meanings associated with various colours into a single overarching approximation, effectively calculating the colour that, in theory, took everyone's preference into account, and we averaged them out into a single colour. As anyone who's ever mixed a load of paints together before could tell you, that colour, generally speaking, turns out to be brown. So that we knew we needed a different approach, so we looked to find the colour group that was chosen the most and found the central point to that grouping. And after all that analysis, we discovered that blue isn't actually the world's favourite colour. So in 2017, the world's favourite colour was Mars green. It was actually called Mars green because we named it in honour of Annie, who you can see on screen here, a survey participant from Dundee in Scotland who drew inspiration from the nearby River Tay. And so this colour, reflective of our times then, became the 51st colour plan colour in our range. We've since applied that colour to products by the likes of Anglepoise, Tokyo Bikes, Sunspell, Cambridge Satchel Company and many more. But if we start to take a look back at all those submissions, and intriguing patterns started to emerge, the majority of favourite colours were nostalgic, representing a desire to revisit cherished memories and relive the past. For instance, one person chose red because it reminded them of their grandmother's roses. Except for a handful that really stood out and which got us thinking. Some individuals chose colours symbolising new beginnings and the unknown, looking to the future for their favourite colour and sparking our own curiosity. They didn't look backwards but forwards, which begged another question. What is the colour of the future? And this slide's not displaying properly. When my parents grew up, they saw a giant white canvas, a blank sheet of paper ahead of them, an infinite landscape on which opportunity lay and the future could be written. The depictions of Earth we are used to and used to form many of our childhoods were of vibrant blues and greens, and they're actually simplifications, perhaps an early piece of colour marketing using filters and enhancements. In reality, our blue planet is not as saturated or vibrant. With continuous improvements in technology, the Japan Meteorological Agency's satellite returned its first true colour image of Earth in grey. Unlike the world of our parents in recent years, contemporary culture often struggles to imagine the future at all. The world of tomorrow is often tied up with strong emotions and envisaged as an unknown, scary, perhaps violent, perhaps bleak place, and we burrow into retromania and nostalgia for comfort. In a world where we're increasingly aware of our planet's and humanity's fragility, it might seem as though the colour of the future is bleak. Or is it? According to research from the Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, the colour of the future might actually be beige, or more precisely, cosmic latte, defined as the average colour of the universe. Scientists determine the cosmic colour by combining light from more than 200,000 galaxies within 200 billion light years of Earth. This revelation changes our conventional perceptions of colour and invites us to consider a cosmic palette. Is the colour of the future the blackest black? Vanta black is a colour that absorbs over 99% of visible light, rendering it the blackest black in the world, challenging our conventional notions of colour and its possibilities. BMW recently used this colour to conceal the detail and the form of its upcoming model in testing. Or is the colour of the future super white? Scientists at Purdue University have recently developed the whitest white paint ever created, boasting the remarkable ability to reflect 98.1% of sunlight. This paint not only advances our perceptions of colour, but also offers a potential solution to combat climate change by cooling surfaces and reducing energy consumption. It reflects light back into space with a great deal more than the average of 10 to 20% of sunlight that most commercial white paints do today. A quote from the professor at Purdue University says, "We weren't really trying to develop the world's whitest paint. We wanted to help with climate change, and now it's more of a crisis and getting worse. We wanted to see if it was possible to help save energy while cooling down the planet." Whatever the colour of the future may be, many interior designers would argue that one thing is for sure: it's actually bright. The pandemic triggered a reversal of the neutral colour trend, with people yearning for vibrant, expressive hues. Designers declared colour is back in an epic way. After spending an extended period in subdued, greyish environments while working from home, their argument goes that homeowners are actually now embracing the power of colour once again. And Fiat would agree. The Italian car company has boldly declared that the colour of the future is absolutely not grey. This is their CEO, Olivier Frances, launching their last grey car they ever produced into a vat of coloured paint in July this year. The company decided to cease production of grey cars altogether, making a significant shift to embody the spirit of joy, colours and optimism. This shift aligns with the Italian way of living, embracing a vibrant and optimistic colour palette. Italy is the country of colours, and starting from today, Fiat's cars too, Francois said. Grey, incidentally, has been Britain's most popular car colour for the last 5 years. But among all this, we still can't forget blue, a colour that has come to symbolise forward thinking and innovation, particularly in the realm of electric vehicles, with companies such as BMW, Hyundai and Volkswagen having already adopted blue as the default visionary colour for their electric vehicle brands. Meanwhile, trend forecasters at WGSN suggest that the colour of the future is actually neo-mint, a fresh and minty hue that symbolises the fusion of technology and nature. As eco-futurist movements gain momentum and climate-conscious brands emerge, Neo Mint was made to represent a bridge between the natural world and technological progress. Or perhaps the colour of the future transcends the visible spectrum altogether. Human vision only captures a fraction of the total range of light, but new telescopes are equipped with advanced technology that can detect light beyond what our eyes can actually perceive, unveiling hidden realms of space. Take, for instance, the incredible images from NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, which peers back over 13.5 billion years to observe the universe's early stages, using near-infrared and mid-infrared wavelengths beyond what our eyes can see. So, with all these perspectives and interpretations, we're still none the wiser, which is why today GF Smith are launching a new global colour survey. The future isn't black and white, or is it? Colour allows us to cross cultures and continents, national borders and language barriers, age brackets and social categories. It's a universal language that connects us and binds us. It draws us in and can force a response that's both physical and psychological. It is one of the most powerful forces that permeates through our culture and our world. A silent but powerful language of influence and suggestion. Colour is something we all feel very deeply. So today, we're inviting you to join us in the world's largest ever colour survey, and we'd invite you to scan the QR code on the next slide and to share your own personal answer to the question, what is your colour of the future, even if it is grey? Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
As you are all submitting your responses, we're going to open it up for a few questions and answers. So we're going to set up a microphone, and please come to the aisles to answer your question or ask your questions. And then afterwards, we'll head on over around the corner to the reception.
Good to see you've all got your cameras out, by the way. It's great.
Hi, thank you so much for your time. My name is Benny, I she, her pronouns. Hi everyone, sorry. My question is, a lot of the talk was about like the history of color and you know how that, like basically how the times like shaped color and things like that. I think in my view, the times that we're in has a lot to do with like radical change and like the political climate and things like that. And I think that art and like design is a big way to make a political statement. how do you think that we use color to kind of get ahead of these things and maybe even like speak to the signs of the times right now, especially as it comes down to like, you know, people-based change? I'm sorry, I'm not like wording this really well. I'm really nervous, but like, it's good to be here. So thanks so much for your time.
That's a really great question, and like honestly, probably fodder for future projects. It's wonderful. I don't think we're either of us are gonna have like the answer to that, but I would say if we're moving towards this monochromatic world, it feels like there's a bit of nihilism like built into that. And I think what you're describing is the world that we're all starting to feel, that we're all feeling right now, where people are feeling their voices are needed more than ever, and people are feeling encouraged to speak out. And I think color can play a huge role in that. I mean, I think whether that's through movements or whether that's through personal practice, I think making sure that we aren't moving in this direction, and I don't believe it is inevitable. I think there's actually a lot of pockets, and if we had more time in this talk, I think we would have included some of that, pockets where color is being used as to make a statement and to push against that nihilism or feeling that the forces closing in are greater than we are. So that's not a great answer to your awesome question, but I think it's something for us all to ruminate on. Absolutely.
Thank you both so much for your talk. It was really interesting. Matt, I would like to ask you about your process at Made Thought with colour. How you kind of go about that in a branding project, or do you start off differently each time with colour, or is it a thing you use at the start or midway through a project, or that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, at first I want to say that like all the work that you've seen today is an accumulation of lots of amazing people at Made Thought, and I want to make sure we give all of them credit, even if they can't be here all the way from London. But in terms of color in our process, it is very central, and I think what you're seeing here in this talk, where color carries so much meaning with it, whether that's subjective or objective meaning, we think a lot about the codes of color and how it's used today and throughout history. When we're doing a branding project, we're thinking about color as it pertains to an industry, what that's meant historically, what that can mean in the future, and we're always pushing our clients and partners to try to think about how they can use color in more provocative ways, in more intentional ways. So, for instance, because color can have so much power, we like to use it. Sometimes we like to use it very sparingly, and it actually becomes about the reserved use of color that makes it truly impactful. We like to think about, as I said, like the meaning of colors and how that makes one feel. I'd say that Made Thought is like an agency isn't afraid of color, and actually like the work that you're seeing today is probably pretty indicative of a lot of the work that we do, where we're embracing it wholeheartedly, and I'd love to see that happen more in the industry. I think it can feel scary to use color in a big way in a project, and it's something that I would love to see the whole design industry embrace a little bit more.
Hi, so after all this color talk, I was wondering what's your guys' favorite color, since, well, personally, I didn't realize that. I mean, I kind of knew that blue was more of a basic favorite color, and it is my favorite color, and I kind of thought, what are your guys' favorite color?
I have an answer we actually did this exercise throughout the studio, but I really want to hear your favorite color and why. Can we start there?
My favorite color is blue, and one of the reasons why is because luckily in New York City, I've got possibility to see sky, and the skies here are very, very blue, like they're clear, and that amazes me. So every day when I wake up, I look outside of the window and I see that it's like sky blue. I'm just so like, and like the shine, and then also the sun is shining, it just makes my day so much better. I don't know why, but it just really does. So that's why it's blue.
I love that. Do you want to?
Yeah, mine would be, can I have two? Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
I really struggle with the concept of just having one favourite colour, actually. Blue and yellow. Blue primarily because it actually reminds me of the ocean, which is like going back to what we were saying earlier on about like nostalgia. Just reminds me of being very small and being taken with my grandparents on kind of family holidays. And yellow because of the sunshine, you know, just being outdoors in the sun. So I guess there's like a nature theme going on there for me, I think.
I was actually going to say yellow as well, but it's like kind of like a burnt yellow, kind of like has this brightness. It's like that moment that like when you like light a match, it's like the spark before it becomes like a full flame.
Why is it?
that?
Yeah, why that?
I like I think I like the potential energy within it. Like it feels like a very fleeting color to me, and and I think there's something beautiful about that. Like just the idea of that color is going to be replaced by like whatever is in that match, whatever is like once that like flame actually becomes mature, that color is going to be replaced. But there's like a very like it feels to me, at least in my brain. I'm sure if we had like a super fast camera, I'd be proven wrong. But in my brain, there's this burnt yellow color that I think it's also coming to New York as a kid. Like they just like there's so much yellow in like the municipality here, and like thinking about yellow taxi cabs and all of that. So I'm originally from San Francisco. Would come out here every year, and that would come out in the winter, actually, like around in about a month's time from now. And there's something about that color that feels like new beginnings. So the match, the new year, all of that in my subjective brain feels exciting. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Does anybody else have a favorite color they want to share too?
Hi, so I feel like in the talk we looked at color a lot in like a straight line. Do you find that we like often revisit colors, and like how do we use them in the same ways, or do we find new ways of using those colors? And yeah.
I mean, from a non-design, but from a product perspective, yeah, all the time. So I could tell you about colours that we've had from the late 1800s, early 1900s, 1920s, 1930s that have been parked in a drawer, and that recently major brands were asking for again because they'd seen them, and for different cultural reasons they were going full circle. So it's definitely not linear, and it's definitely circular in terms of how we see it from a product perspective in terms of colour, for sure. And we're seeing that now more than ever before, actually. And maybe that's something that will come about, or we'll find more about as a result of this survey. But we're certainly seeing people looking back much more than they're looking forwards in terms of colour from our perspective, from a product level.
Yeah, we were getting this talk together. One of the things we were talking about was purple as like such a divisive color. Lots of strong opinions about purple, but it has this like interesting legacy. Like I think in this talk it was held up as like the color of luxury, which I think makes a lot of sense, as it was like the color of nobility that was completely outlawed from commoners being able to wear purple because that was the color of royalty. And then thinking about how like Prince was able to take that color and the power and the meaning of that color and turn it into this personal brand and this feeling of a movement. I think there's moments like that, like what we're seeing happen with Pink right now, with Barbie, and whatever your personal meaning around like what that moment in time is. There's like it's fun and exciting when people take the power innate in a color and give it new meaning and new life.
Yeah, thank you.
sorry. I have another question. So you mentioned when you were answering that question, the previous question, that we look to the past for like inspiration, and we look back to the past, and I'm wondering like why you think that we do that, because I guess before, like, did they do that? And I guess what would be the alternative to that, if you could think about that? Or how do you think we can maybe build an alternative if an alternative should exist? Yeah.
This is one of the things I love about design, that it's all referential, and like meaning is not fixed. Meaning is like it starts one place and then it gets reinterpreted and reinterpreted until there's like totally new meaning. So like when we talk about trends, for instance, I actually think trends are incredibly interesting, and not something to be necessarily avoided, because it means like as a culture we're trying to understand something in a new way, and we're using the only reference point we have, which is the past. Like I think I personally don't think there's any way to just like look straight into the future and pull to create something that's never been done, because as the animals that we are, we're using the palette that exists within our like minds and experience. I think I'm getting lost in my answer from your question, but that why do we pull from the past? I think that's how we're wired, and I honestly think it's like the thing that makes me love design and creative storytelling so much is that everything is a collage, and it's everything, every image, every symbol, every color has power because it's been used before, and it's only because it's been used before that it means anything at a large scale, I think.
I guess, like, do you think that it's like holding us back in any way from like innovating new things at all? And that's it. I'm sorry, I want to give space to.
I don't know if it's, I mean, truthfully, I think it's inevitable. And I don't think it's holding us back from creating new things. I think we do create new things, but we have to pull from somewhere and to create like mass communication. I think every once in a while there's sparks, there's things that come out of nowhere that do that don't necessarily reference anything, and that's amazing. So maybe we should be trying to look with fresh eyes at the world and not so preoccupied with what came before. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a really great question. Again, that's two really great questions. I think it's really interesting. I'm going to answer this as if I was working. Ben Parker, who worked with closely at Maidthorpe, would be kind of here telling me to talk about climate change. So I'm going to talk about climate change very briefly. But I think, for me, looking back is something that we've been able to do because it's been nostalgic, and as Matt was saying, there's those points of reference. But I also think at certain moments in time, there's been nothing that's certain about the future. So actually, what do you look at? What do you grasp onto? Because we don't know what's coming around the corner. So what do you consider? Which again is why I think this survey is quite interesting. But I think where maybe things are starting to shift is that we do know that there's a future around the corner if we don't do something about what's going on with the planet we live in. And actually, there is a certainty that will come eventually with that. So if I think about my small kids, I know that in 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years' time, this is going to be a very different place. We live on the UK is a small island, and I was reading this morning about areas of that which are getting washed away. So actually there's things that we actually will start to think about in terms of the future, which actually my parents' generation won't have even contemplated. So whilst we still look back from a point of reference, I think actually there is a generational shift coming where people will start to look much more about actually what impact we have and the change that has and how that will impact future generations to come. And I'll be really interested to see what that looks like from a colour perspective, but I think we'll start to consider that much more.
We have time for one more question.
Hi, just kind of building on some of these other questions about the future and colors of the future. I'm curious, and maybe this goes to that question about linear versus circular or cyclical. Like, how would we even imagine a color of the future without looking at the past? Because don't the colors that exist?
You've got to take it.
Yeah, the colors of the past do. I think that's actually the question underpinning the work. It's asking collectively, can we imagine? And I don't think it's about creating a new color. I think it's about creating new meaning as represented by a color.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The reception is taking place around the corner in the pavilion.